Hey, Tim Sykes here. Gave an all-day webinar today. It was pretty crazy between me and Tim Bowen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll keep doing them every now and then, but it does take a lot of effort. I'm sorry that we had some technical issues early in the day, but we actually had less technical issues than last time. But when you're using brand new software where we can go back and forth the way that we can, there's going to be some issues. First, I want to go over a few students before I get to the main stocks that I'm watching and my take, just because I had to leave early from the webinar. As you know, I missed the last half hour of the day. Sometimes life intervenes, and I want to teach you that not to freak out, not to try and be a slave to the market. I know there are people who would never ever leave a half hour before the market open. I think life comes first sometimes. And so I missed the last half hour. So I just have a lot of people to go over and stocks to go over. So bear with me. Russell, good job, made $400 today, he said, with my teaching. Thank you, Russell. Ashley, good job on CANN. This is a decent little trade, making 5%, not having any overnight risk, making, 80 bucks in 30 minutes. This is a good start. Most of Wall Street will look down on trading a stock like this and holding for so long, for so little. But guess what? 80 bucks here, 100 bucks there, 200 bucks there. It adds up, and that's how you grow a small account. John, good job. You got a nice little entry on CANN also. L. Germain Russell was in on CANN and CNBX. I don't know if I would chase CNBX, but that stock, closed strongly. He sold CARA way too early. He still made 65 bucks. I made a few hundred or roughly 1,000, I guess, on CARA, and I missed literally nearly $1 a share. So it's good to be on the right track, and it's okay to sell a little too soon. Sarah, really love the virtual training that Tim Bowen and I did, so thank you, Sarah. Let's get to some stocks. First, I got to talk about my stock CARA. This was the stock that I was long over the weekend. I took a lot of heat. I take heat on my picks. It's kind of funny. All I do is teach patterns that have worked for the past 2 decades. So if I take heat on it, well, guess what? Look at the past 2 decades. Look at the patterns that I'm actually buying and trading. CARA, yes, it's been in a downtrend for the past month, okay? But at the same time, it looks like it has a nice bottom in here in the mid sixes, and it spiked big in the past. So, of course, I'm going to buy it when it breaks the morning spike and, more importantly, holds those morning spike highs. This is when I was buying it here midday Friday in the low sevens, even though it closed lower. I took some profits in here in the 740s just because I was scared of the overall market. Even though it tanked into the close, as I said during today's webinar, it's important to note that even though it dropped, it still held the highs from the morning spike. That is a good sign, and that's actually what led somewhat, obviously the stock market was up huge today, but the fact that it was technically still a breakout, it did not fail to hold the breakout. And I sold a little too soon here in the 760s. And now it's, nearly 850. So whether you sell in the 760s, 770s, 80s, 90s, 8, I didn't expect all of this. You can't predict a big 2-3% market move. But buying earnings winners when they break out, when they break the morning highs, when they hold those morning highs, this pattern works time and again. Even SKLN last week, which wasn't an earnings winner, but it was a contract winner. And again, I took a lot of heat. Where was it? Right here. It spiked big on this little contract news. I waited. It broke the morning high. 230s. I was in. I was out in the 270s, again, a little too soon, and went all the way up to 4 the next day. Even now it's at 3. I know there's a bunch of short sellers who say, oh, all these companies are worthless. They're going to zero. All I'm doing is buying breakouts and holding. It seems a lot easier than shorting. You can't even find shares to short. And if you do find shares to short, the risk reward of shorting is so bad unless you have a huge account. So a lot of these short sellers need to kind of take themselves out of their own rich ass lives and pretend as if you're trading with a small account like most of my students. What's better? Do you go short with a lot of risk, or do you go long on the breakouts with little risk where you simply sell if the breakout doesn't hold? Ding, ding, ding. The answer is buy the breakouts. It's not just one strategy for everybody. It depends on who you are, what your account size is, what your personality is, and frankly, your schedule. Because the way that I teach that you don't have to be in front of the computer every second. And if you're buying these breakouts, like I did on SKLN and CARA and on CANN, you'll learn that it's a very simple setup. You're simply waiting for the morning spike highs to break out and then confirmation that it can hold those highs. And then guess what? Amazing things happen. SKLN was a 50% winner. Now I am long CANN overnight. And again, I already see the heat coming like, oh, how could you buy such a stock with such bad revenues? I don't care about the revenue numbers. I don't care about the earnings per share. No one does, okay? This is not up due to the value or the business. This is a marijuana momentum stock. Deal with it. Accept it. Welcome to the market. Welcome to penny stocks. It's absurd to think that anyone gives a shit about these companies' revenues or profits. This is not a long-term investment. I specifically said the only reason why I'm buying this is because of the way that it's closing. And guess what? During my all-day webinar today, I was tempted, but I did not trade. I did not want to buy because, frankly, it could not beat these morning highs here at 445, and I wasn't sure that it was going to spike. And you have the election coming up, so you have a lot of uncertainty. But I was buying right in here when it broke this key 438 level. That's what the trigger was for me when it looked like, wait a minute, this could close strongly. And I also knew that I was going to be gone the last half hour. It's actually interesting. It really started only spiking with like 15 minutes to go. For 20 minutes after my buy, the issue was still in doubt whether it could break out. And I know a lot of shorts who like to bet against me and they think that these patterns are BS. Be my guest. Bet against me. See how you do. And CANN closed strongly, and I think it's going to go up even more. I think it has a good chance at spiking more. As what I said about I would not hold through elections, correct. The elections are tomorrow, November 8th. The results will be known at either the nighttime of November 8th or maybe even the morning of November 9th. I will be out before the election results are announced. So some short sellers say, oh, you said you wouldn't hold through elections. Correct. I'm not going to hold through election results. And it's bullshit if you think that there's some more risk before you know the election results. There's risk, I'm not going to say that there's no risk. I have a whopping 1,000 shares. I'm up a whopping $300. But as I said during my all-day webinar, which many of you guys missed, there's quantified risk, okay? It's qualified. I think that there's more upside than downside. And with a 1,000 share position, I can get in or out pretty quickly. I know my goal is to sell at or near the market open tomorrow, whether it's at 470 or 480 or 5, I don't know. Maybe even 440, maybe even 420. I might still have a loss. All I can do is try to buy breakouts over the morning highs. And CANN, even though it had, many spikes, arguably you could say that the morning high was really 415, which it pretty much held all day, minus a few ticks right here. So this held near its highs. When you have a stock that's holding near its highs, it's probably going to go up, especially on the back of earnings. And even though you talk about the earnings per share and the revenues and the business model, I don't give a shit about any of that. It's broke the morning high on strong volume, the strongest volume it's had in nearly a month. And it also has a history of spiking. Look at this. This was 5 green days in a row. Here were 3 green days in a row. Here were 3 more green days in a row. Even this green day, even though the next day was red, it still was higher than the initial green day. So the odds tell me that this could go higher. I didn't know it was going to close at 469. I would have been happy with a close at 449 or 439 even. I put myself in the position to potentially reap the rewards of a breakout play. No different than CARA, no different than SKLN. These are the patterns that I teach. And I'm very proud that, frankly, all day I resisted the urge to trade because I wasn't convinced that the overall market was going to hold its gains. And even when I was gone, the last half hour of the trading day, that's when you got the real big spike. It wasn't just, CANN spiking. It was the entire market spiking into the close. So I'm very, very proud of how patient I was today. I even got in a fight with some of the students who were on the webinar. They're like, you promised us live trading. And I was like, I will not force trades. But when the opportunity opened up with CANN, I was prepared, I was ready, and I struck with my massive 1,000 share buy. This is how I teach. I trade with a small account to show you the setups. Whether I bought 100 shares, whether I bought no shares, the pattern and the setup was there. And you can either identify them and learn to profit from them, or you could ignore them, or you can even bet against them. I don't care what you do. I'm just going to keep following the patterns that I have known over the years to work time and again. Not every time, okay? CARA, win for me. CATQ, win for me. CANN, probably going to be a win for me. SKLN, okay. You can kind of see a little bit of a theme here. Even in the down market, by the way, SKLN and CATQ were wins. CARA was helped by today's up market, and I think CANN also. But you have to adapt to different markets, and you try your best, you find good patterns, and you strike. And I don't want you ever, ever, ever following anybody's picks or alerts. I want you to learn to spot these yourself, but by my sharing how I spot it, and those of you on the all-day webinar can understand that I clearly laid out the risk and reward, and I thought myself whether I should buy it or not for like an hour, and I made the right choice so far. And I don't regret it. I think this stock spikes more. You can see how quickly it spikes, literally $1 a share, all in about an hour or so when the earnings news came out. So people like the earnings news. If you want to debate, is it a valuable company? Is it going to be bankrupt in the end? I don't give a shit. I'm not here for the long-term investment. I'm not here for months or years or decades. I could give a shit if all these weed stocks went out of business. They probably will. Most small companies fail. Most of these hot sectors fail. It's good to understand failure. But at the same time, it's just sad to ignore potential opportunities when you see these patterns. And I think a lot of these short sellers are in this kind of narrow-mindedness where they have to short. Every company is junk. Every company is going to zero. And, obviously we're 8 years into this bull market, so a lot of people are expecting a bear market, and the shorts are like licking their lips like, oh, I can't wait. Well, we're not in a bear market yet. And if today's price action is any indication, we might still be in a very strong bull market. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a big squeeze either. So learn to go both long or short, adapt to the market, see what patterns are working. And, I don't knock any strategy. Maybe shorts will be right. Maybe CANN will tank tomorrow and I won't be able to get out. And that could happen. I accept that possibility. But so far, it's been breaking out to new highs. And so far, I've been right on the money. And I have quite a few patterns like it in the past few weeks. So I'll take my chances. That's all you can do in the market. You try, you go in with a thesis, and you see how it plays out over and over and over again. And if you do well, you stick with that thesis. If you don't do well, you try some other pattern. And you keep adapting. Remember, you have to think of yourself as a scientist. And that means testing, 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 refining, refining, refining. Accepting that sometimes your thesis will fail and you'll be wrong. But it's okay to be wrong, especially if you cut losses quickly. It's not okay to be wrong if you just say, oh, I have to be right, and you don't cut losses quickly, and then the stock takes out, multi-year lows and you lose half or all your money because you went all in or you use leverage. So don't be afraid to be wrong. Understand that the beauty of trading is that even when you're wrong, you can manage it. You can cut your losses quickly, especially if you take small positions. If you take too big positions, it's tough to cut your losses quickly. So I'm very glad that I bought CANN. I'm very glad that I invested such a small dollar amount from my E-Trade account. Interactive Brokers, I was trying to buy it. Those of you guys in the VTF webinar today saw that I couldn't even execute my Interactive Brokers. So I don't know if it was my settings or if it's the broker. I mean, this is a weird little fucked up penny stock. But I went with it with E-Trade. I got executed pretty quickly. And, for roughly 20 minutes, 30 minutes after my buy, it did nothing. And then into the final close with the market getting stronger and with the shorts getting squeezed here, this looks like a nice short squeeze for tomorrow. So we'll see. This is the main stock that I'm watching. Also, I guess CNBX spiked and finished higher. So some of you guys banked on that. And, guess what? This stock is strong too. And this is a nice breakout. So I don't know how high CNBX can go either. I wouldn't be shorting it right now. I mean, I was shorting it the other day. I locked in 20%. And that's what I like to do. I'm shorting and I go for the quick drop. It dropped actually 30% from my short. So I covered a little too soon, but now it's spiking to new highs. So it turns out You make 20% instead of trying to capture all 30%, but at least you lock in your profits rather than some shorts who are like, it has to go down, it has to go down. Oh, wait, it just made a new high. So don't be so confident in your longs or your shorts where you put yourself in a situation where you're going to lose big. That's all I can say. I can be wrong on any single stock. I accept that. And you'll see me trade like a coward. You'll see me cut losses quickly if I must. But a lot of the time, I've just been dead on right. And even with my overly safe trading, I'm taking 15, 20, 30% wins here or there, and I'm right for 50 or 60%. So we'll see with CANN. So far, I'm up nearly 10%. Thank you. I'll see you guys in the chat room tomorrow.